As the famous quote goes, honor the past, celebrate the present, and embrace the future. It's my pleasure to bring on stage a person who is constantly building and growing relationships and is the most appropriate to honor the past, as she was the Sutradhar of Cohort 1. I give you Ruchita Tandon, Chief Growth Officer, Aspire for her.
Hello, good evening. That was very slow. I think the bhajis were pretty good. Okay, same place, same time. It's Dosti Hall exactly a year back. But what was different? Cohort 1 had 42 women who graduated in their graduating caps. And this time we have actually 64 women who are graduating in style. And that's the surprise, which is the Power Walk coming up soon. But before we move on to the program, we'd like to celebrate the women who've already got on board. And we have more than 15 of them, some from Cohort 1 and some from the community. And while they cannot be here today, they are not here, but we would really want to clap for them and rejoice for them. I'm hoping that next year we also have a lot of women from Cohort 2 who we are going to announce. And let the claps keep coming. It's Jamuna Ravi, board member Vaya Vikas, Monica Jasuja, MRC APAC board, Global Impact FinTech board, Shruti Kanan, board member YNOS, SSO, SEC, Startup India Seed Fund Executive, Neeta Mukherjee, independent director, Fino Payment Bank, Nupur Mukherjee, independent director, Capri Global, Paroma Roy Chaudhary, CXXO founder member, Elza Mari De Silva, board member, Red Dot Foundation, Rukmini and Sushmita Ghatak, advisory board, Anudeep Foundation, Manisha Gupta, board member, Hearty Fresh, Saundari Mukherjee, LRC Charitable Foundation, Roonam Mehta, Health Cube Inc. board, Bhavna Mittal, ED and CGO at Burt Labs. There are a lot of Mukherjees, but they really got it. They're not all related. And besides that, while I've also mentioned about Cohort 1, few of these members are actually sitting in the US or the Singapore, but they were all bound together by Cohort 1. So thank you so much. Okay, moving on with today's theme, Allyship in Action. An avid photographer, a great car singer, loves music and loves to sing. Guess who? Why did TVFS say that? Okay. Now welcome to the official part, which is a content creator. Can you guess how many million followers does he have?
Tell us.
Three guesses.
5, 7, 15.
10. I will give that to 10.
Oh my God.
I actually forget counting after a couple because Madhura has given us a vision of 1 million by 2025 and 10 million by 2030. Ankur, I think we can really take your help for reaching 10 million by 2030. Content creator, where he engages with a community of more than 10 million followers, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Education, startup, webveda.com, mentor for various startups. Anybody knows the books that he's written?
Epic shit.
Do epic shit, get epic shit done, and make epic money. These are the 3 books. I don't know how many copies. I just lose track of numbers with Ankur. These are the smaller numbers, but very powerful. Fortune magazine's 40 under 40 list for India. Top 100 digital creators list 2022. LinkedIn, top voices 2019, 2018, and 2020. And of course, India's top executives under 40 by Business Today. Thank you so much, Ankur, for joining us. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Ruchita. This is very warm. Whenever this introduction goes out, I'm almost embarrassed, just like someone has to stop. But thank you for having me. You really pulled me in here, and I'm so glad that you sent that LinkedIn message out. It's serendipitous that I happen to be here, and I'm so glad to be amongst all of you. Firstly, congratulations to all of you. Thoroughly well done. It's no mean feat. I don't know when was it when you graduated from college. It was a really long time for me, and I do remember that moment very proudly. And I don't know how many of you thought that you would be graduating again when you graduated the last time you did. So congratulations for pulling in, and imagine yourself in the college robe, and then you dropping the hat and being so proud of you. I wanted to have a slightly separate conversation around women leadership in this world, which is, I'm glad not being discussed at whether it's needed or not. Like that moment has passed and well beyond us. It's frankly now the conversation of how do we facilitate that, and to the credit of Aspire for Her, there's so many such fantastic movements that are happening. How many of you here have kids above the age of 10? Nearly all of you. Okay. And if I were to ask you, what's something about them that you don't particularly like? I know all of you are lovely parents and you adore them and all of those nice things, but is there something about them that you don't particularly like, you wish it was different? Yes? Oh, what is there not to like about that? Why do you know more than us? Yeah, that's like a quintessential parent ego coming in like, okay, fair enough. Anything else? Yes, ma'am? Online, as against you who don't. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. They're very honest. You don't like that about? Oh, no, I'm asking about things that you may not like about them. Oh, yeah, it was like, clever change, huh? Yeah, yes, ma'am? They argue a lot. Okay. They don't pay enough? Oh, I was like, why are you asking them for money? Like, where's my salary for being a mom? Yeah. Okay, yeah, they don't play enough. I would highly. And you don't like that about them? Okay, all right, yeah. They're like bindas and they're all over. Anyone else? Very open to? Very opinionated. Yes? Say that again? They're more unhappy. Why do you think that is the case? No, I've heard this so many times that the generation is unhappier than we were. And trust me, our parents felt the same way about us. It's just generational. It never goes. They argue a lot more. Like, right? I was like, I love that there were no hands when I asked this question, and now everyone's raising their hands. It's like, andar se nikal ke aa raha hai. So, I often, because I spend a lot of time with startups and I largely speak to a community which are 20-year-olds, and one angst that I often get, and I don't know if the leaders here in the room representing large organizations, largely because those are the ones that are witnessing this change tectonically so much, they're like, this generation is highly impatient. I'm always baffled, like having this conversation with a 21-year-old, and I'm like, hey, how's it going, and how are things? You just started your new job. And they're like, I'm not enjoying it, Ankur. I'm like, why? What happened? I'm not creating any impact. And I was like, how long has it been for you? Like, didn't you just start working right now? Yeah, it's been 6 months and I haven't created any impact. And like, who told you that you have to create impact in 6 months? There are people who've been at it for 60 years and I don't think they can claim to have created an impact. What's wrong? And here's this very important distinction to make. Our generation, like I was born in 1980, so 44 years of age. We grew up in an India where we had no choice but to wait for everything. And it's not that we loved that wait. We hated every second of that wait. But we had no choice but to wait. So you want to hear your favorite Bollywood music? Well, Chitrahar at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays. But if there is no electricity that day, too bad, next week. And that's when you can wait. And you'll wait for your landline connection to come, and you'll wait for your scooter to come, and you wait for your milk. I remember as a Delhi University student, I used to stand in line for 4 or 5 hours to get a monthly bus pass that gave me free access to the bus, which would be the equivalent of a BEST here. Like, life was all about waiting. And what we don't fully appreciate is that taught us, not by design, not by choice, just by stroke of luck, what it means to wait. It actually made us patient, to the extent that today we know that good things take time, and we're okay. We know how to work hard, and we know we'll get there. But there is this generation, for no fault of theirs, that was born in an era which is completely on demand. Everything is happening when they wish for it. So you need a book, click. You need food, click. You need cabs, click. You need music, click. You need love, swipe right. Right? It's just there when you need it on demand. And that is what, without their full knowledge, fueling their impatience. Because they don't know what it is to wait for things. They've got everything in there. And while I recognize, as a parent of much younger kids, 12 and 6, that this may not be what we wish for them to learn, what I think is the silver lining that we're missing in there. And that is change in the world, which we as a generation used to speak about and be okay in our head that is going to take a really long time to actually materialize, is happening at a far faster pace today. Because there's this entire generation that's saying, you know what, enough of this conversation and this debate and this dialogue, let's get shit in action. Because we want to see that impact come through. And what we ought to do as parents is to encourage the right kind of impatience. The right kind of impatience. Which is, no, it shouldn't take decades for change to happen. If change is meaningful and it's right at our doorstep, there is no reason why you can't be the one raising your hand and making that action happen, owning it, because you know what, in your head, you don't even know of a world where you have to wait for all those things to unfold.
Looks like a girl, but she's a flame. So bright she can burn your eyes. Better look the other way.
Most of his women employees joined the organization when they were a fresher, and under his leadership, they have spent more than 15 years, and they take pride in the fact that they were personally groomed by Rhythm. They are excited to come every single day at work. Yes, Rhythm, that's what they say. He is a taskmaster. But do you know why? Because he gets the best out of you. He pushes you in a different way, and he trains you to be a thought leader. Under his leadership, the diversity journey in this organization started much before the diversity actually became a mandate in organizations. Welcome once again, the Managing Director of Morgan Stanley with 26 years in the firm, Rhythm Desai. He heads Morgan Stanley's Indian Equity Research Team, which is top ranked in the country. He is also on the advisory board of Project Mumbai, which is a not-for-profit. And if you think you've seen this gentleman and you think you've seen him where, then I'll tell you he's the most popular face on CNBC. There you go.
Thank you, Ruchika, for that generous introduction. It's an honor to be associated with Aspire for her. Madhura and I go back 20 years, or maybe 19. In a very odd way, our daughters actually studied in the same school. We lost touch with each other, and then we reconnected a few years ago, and it was very, very pleasant to be reconnected because of the work that she's doing. So I was instantaneously excited about it. What happened was a month ago, the Women Business Alliance of Morgan Stanley reached out to me and said, Rhythm, we should do something, a session on financial literacy for women in Morgan Stanley. And I said, wait a minute, financial literacy for women, I think you are actually not accurate about the lack of literacy on finance. Women are actually better investors than men. And they were not very convinced about what I was saying. And I said, I insist on running a talk show which will be titled, Women Are Better Investors Than Men. Very reluctantly, and they took about 10 days of deliberation and came back and said, okay, we have agreed, you can run this. And so this morning, I ran a 1-hour talk which explained to the audience, which consisted of both men and women, about 1,000 people of Morgan Stanley were on video, why women are better investors than men. And then, of course, Ankur talked about the CFO and the chairperson of the household. And I cannot but agree with him that women are actually much better investors than men. And in fact, the reasons why they are better investors than men will also synchronize with why they will be better board members than men. Because there's a huge overlap between investing and running boards of companies. Company boards are primarily investing the firm's capital into the business of the company or into businesses that the company chooses to do. So the skill sets overlap. So what's exactly about this superior investing skill that women have? Well, there are actually two things which are needed to be successful in investing. At one level, you need an appropriate mix of fear and greed. And at another level, you need an appropriate mix of skepticism and confidence. See why men find it difficult. And by the way, I have to say something here. If you look behind, actually, there are a couple of books written by successful men investors. And around the world, when you start listing the successful investors, the only names you get are of men. So Warren Buffett, you get Charlie Munger, you get Benjamin Graham, you get Howard Marks and Seth Klarman and so on. You don't get any woman in that list. And that would immediately lead to a challenge to what I'm saying. But the problem with that is a statistical one. It is not a lack of evidence. The statistical problem is that women are never allowed to make investment decisions because of the burden that we are carrying from the Victorian age. And as a consequence, the sample of women who are actually investing is very small, as is the names that I just listed, the Buffetts and the Mungers, are a few amongst billions of people. I mean, imagine in the last 100 years, a few billion people went and came and went from this planet, and we could count about 20-25 successful investors. So when the success rate is so small, and then the sample of women is so small, obviously you're not going to get women names. But my belief and my view is that in the next 100 years, and 100 years later, when the century turns and we look back and start listing successful investors, it will be dominated by women. Because we have crossed that road where people are now skeptical about handing over their capital to women. And so coming back to that mix of fear and greed and skepticism and confidence is where women score, because men tend to be more greedy and more confident. Women tend to be a little bit more skeptical and a bit more fearful.
And his name is no one else except for the IBMer, Sandeep Patel. He is the MD of IBM India and South Asia region. Welcome, Sandeep. This is the second time you're here with us, right at the launch and now at the graduation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And first of all, let me start off by giving my heartfelt congratulations to all the graduates today. I was here at the start of this program, and it's so heartening to see everyone go through this program. And I think it's a wonderful initiative that Madhura and others have started. I think it's terrific. 60 and we have 65 folks who are graduating today. So I think actually, the target that Betsy threw out, 20. I mean, it's all in a number, and I think people who worked with me know that I usually like to set stretch targets and actually work towards achieving them. And look, there's a reason. So what I'm going to leave you with is probably three thoughts. And these are thoughts, I mean, call it thoughts, call it perspectives. It's something that I share with my daughter a lot. And it's things that I've actually learned through mentors who have been women that I've learned from over the years. My mother and my wife, in many respects, because I think they've probably been the biggest educators and have made me who I am today. So I'll share with you a couple of things. First, we heard a lot of reasons why women should aspire to be on boards and all the rest of it. But just flip that around. It's actually good for boards to have women on them. First, I'll share some data points. I always like to get down to data, very quickly. My board here in India today, we have 40% of our board that are women. It's a small board, but that's true. As a matter of fact, one of our board members was supposed to be here, but she's busy with clothes, and she opted not to come at the last minute. But it's great to have that representation on the board. A couple of other data points. There are studies that show that almost boards that are more balanced, right, boardrooms that are more balanced, are 20% more likely to have a positive impact on performance. One data point. Another data point. There's another study that says that companies that add just one more woman to their board while keeping the board size unchanged achieve an ROI of 8 to 13 basis points. Again, this is data that studies have shown. Another one, and this is actually through our own Institute of Business Value, we do research, and there was a women in leadership study that they did, says that organizations that formally prioritize women, moving women into leadership positions, they see higher revenue growth, almost about 19% higher. So just think about those numbers, right? So this is something that you should feel very confident about, and that these are numbers that support why all of you not only should aspire to be on boards, but encourage others and folks that you mentor, other women that you mentor, to actually walk in your path to move in this direction. Very, very important. I think this is sort of the courage of conviction, which I think is very, very important for everyone to develop. And every time, the reason I said that these are things which I talk to my daughter about, every time she says, well, you think I can really do this? I said, well, why not? What's stopping you from doing it? And then we sit down and talk about 5 different reasons why she's probably more qualified to do that, or whatever she's trying to do, than anyone else. And it doesn't matter. It's not about, and I think I loved what Ankur said, it's not about, men or women. It's about capabilities. It's about talent. And that brings me to my second point. It's really, really important that all of you, all of us, and this isn't, again, I try to distinguish this not about men or women, but all of us need to be aware about what's happening around us. I'll give you another example. I mean, this is an example, and I'm saying this because we are in the middle of it right now. I know Ankur talked about AI, for example, artificial intelligence. We are in the middle of it right now, whether you like it or not. AI, generative AI, it's all around us. I'm particularly, passionate about it because we do a lot in that space. But it's all about how do you think about the trends that are going on around you? How do you take initiative to educate yourself on it? And there was a data point that really struck me. It disturbed me, actually. There's another research report that our Institute of Business Value did, which says that most women, and this was on generative AI, most women see generative AI as something that's happening to them and not a tool that works for them. I think this is a mindset, and this was obviously related to women, but I think this is a mindset that all of us need to change. There are trends, I think, from time immemorial, when you think about technology trends, other trends, these are trends that will continue to evolve. I think we're living in a time, and Ankur said it really well, where things are changing a mile a second, right? It's very fast. And if we are not alert to those changes and don't equip ourselves in terms of how do we use it to put it to good use for social good, for business, for citizen services, I think we will be left behind. And so this notion about staying ahead of trends, which in today's world, I think it gives us a lot of potential to do that, right? So men or women, but I think I would encourage all of you to keep that in perspective. How do you stay ahead of that?
I counted, we are less than 10 men in this room and 70 women. So thank you for giving us half the feel of how you feel every day in those glass buildings, right? I mentioned half the feel because you are not sitting in a corner and discussing our dresses. You are not going to another corner, smoking, finishing the work, and then coming and telling us what to do. You are not going out for a drink without taking us, right? So, thank you. Thank you very much. Right. Oh, that might just happen. Yeah, I was overconfident. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. Congratulations to every one of you. I have a very short insight to share, but before that insight, let me share 2 examples. The first example is of my wife. She, like everyone else, we graduated together from a very small town. I think someone was talking about patience. They should go and study at BHU, Banaras Hindu University, and they will understand what patience is, because we didn't have phones, we didn't have emails, and the only way we communicated with each other is I'll write a letter, give it to a guy on a cycle, mess boy. He'll travel for 5 kilometers, go give it to her. She'll write a response on the other side, and then it'll come back, right? So if anyone wants to learn patience, yeah, welcome to BHU. So she is as ambitious as I am on career, worked for 14 years and then decided to take a break for obvious reasons. We had a kid, and the way we are socially conditioned, I didn't take that break, she took that. And she took the break for 6 years and decided to go back to work. And this was 5 years back. And when she decided to go back to work, everyone just wanted to give her salary of a fresher, right? As if those 14 years didn't matter. And she was a star performer at one of the large IT companies. And it totally broke her. I remember the number of interviews, she'll come back and cry. Okay, this is not me. And then she went to work with 2 startups, and she left those jobs in 3 to 4 months because everyone over there tried to treat her like a fresher, right? And that's when she just called her the company where she had left, from which she had left. The company didn't conduct any interview, called her for a meeting, said that here is the offer. She was given an offer of a role which she would have been if she had continued with the company, right? This was 2 levels senior than what she left, right? And she was surprised. She joined the company, and it's been 6 years. She must have got 5 offers from various organizations saying that double the salary, triple the salary, but I know she'll retire from there, right? That, I believe, is organizations walking the talk and not doing it for PR and publicity, right? So that's one example. The second example is the company I worked just before where I am. Where I am, I don't have to talk about diversity. We had Sheryl Sandberg, and we have Sandhya, who's our country head. So I think Meta doesn't, our products are for every single one of us. So I don't have to talk about this. But my previous organization, we thought we were doing very well. And suddenly we had this fantastic HR head. She was, as you will expect, not from HR. She was a nuclear physicist who did McKinsey for 6 years and then joined our organization and said, I want to do HR, right? And she believed in behavioral sciences, and she said, I want to run it like a scientist. And the first thing she did is she said that I want to do a run all our job descriptions through a gender decoder tool, right? And were we surprised to find that
जगमगाती लड़कियां ये झिलमिलाती लड़कियां जिनके दीवाने तुम भी तो हो हंसती गाती लड़कियां खिलखिलाती लड़कियां चाहती सबके
100% commitment. You know, there's so many good things we have heard and we have learned, and sometimes it happens when you're carrying a lot of things in your hand and you put one more and you put one more, then everything falls down. So I don't want you all to forget the lovely insights and learning which we have got. So how about let's have a story today? And I want to share a story with you. Picture this. It's a hot, very, very hot summer late afternoon. It's a desert. There is a camel herder who is herding the camels across the desert. Dune after dune, he goes up and goes down. And every time he is hoping that the next dune which he and the herd slowly crest, he'll see the inn, the sarai, where they're going to have to spend the night. And indeed, a time comes where they cross another dune just before the sun has set, and he sees the inn, the sarai, which is out there. He takes all the camels with him. He has 100 camels, the first time he's taking such a big herd. And he goes, and when he reaches the sarai, he goes to the area outside the sarai, demarcated, where the camels are supposed to spend the night. He goes from the camels, he starts taking out stakes and ropes, one by one. He puts a stake in the ground, ties a rope around it, puts the rope around the camel's neck, goes back, takes the second one. He's tired, he's hungry, he's thirsty, but he has to tie the camels in place before it is dark. He does it for 99 of the camels, and he realizes that he doesn't have one stake and one rope. And he's wondering, what should I do? How do I get this? And you know, I have to reach 100 camels to the destination, and if I don't tie the camel down, there's going to be a problem here. He doesn't know what to do, so he goes into the sarai, and there is an old innkeeper, the person in the sarai, and he goes and asks him, and he says, you know what, I have 100 camels, I had 99 stakes and 99 ropes, and I have tied them, I don't have this one, what do I do? And that man the old man wizened by the, desert wind, he barely looked up, he says, go and tie it. And he thought, senile, he's not understanding, and he told him again, he says, but I don't have the stake and the rope. Without looking up, he said, pretend you have a stake and a rope, go and tie the camel. He was tired, he was thirsty, he was hungry, he didn't know what to do. So he went out to the 100th camel, pretended to take a stake in his hand, hit it into the ground, pretended he had a rope, tied it around the stake, tied it around the camel's neck, and came back inside. He had a simple dinner which the sarai offered him. He was so exhausted. The moment his head hit the pillow of that ultra-simple room, he was fast asleep. He woke up in the morning, and his thoughts first went to the 100th camel. Is the camel there or not, or would it have wandered off into the desert? But he quickly got ready, had a simple breakfast, and went out. To his surprise, all 100 camels were there. So he was really pleased. He started one by one, taking the ropes off the camels. He would take out the stake, put it back in the bag, and the camels would stand up and quickly run towards and go and stand on a side. All of this happened. He did it for 99 camels. For the 100th one, he tried to prod the camel to stand up. The camel refused. And he was very perplexed. He says, why is the camel not moving? He tried a few times. He tried a few tricks. Nothing worked for him. So he went back into the sarai, to the old sarai owner, and asked him, what should I do? So the sarai owner said, go and open the rope and take out the stake. He says, but I haven't tied it. He said, pretend you're opening it. He went to the camel and he pretended to take off the rope from the camel's neck, pretended to take out the stake. The camel immediately stood up, went and joined all the other camels ready to move. The camel herder was perplexed. So rather than taking the herd and starting to walk, he went back inside. And he told the old man, he says, thank you so much for what you have told me. Clearly, you have been seeing camels for a very long time, and that's why you've given me this advice. For the first time, the sarai owner looked him in the eye and said, no, I have been studying humans for a very long time. There is a serious part to this. Too many times in the world, people tie imaginary ropes around you and me. And as I've gone around and as I've spoken to people, I've realized that that happens more often with women. Culturally, the way society is, you can't do this. You should not be doing this. This is not something which women do. I think as a part of this, and what I do as being an ally is question that and ask them, is the rope around your neck real or is that rope imaginary? And you will not come to know about it unless you step out and try that. We as allies can nudge you and remind you of it that maybe what you are assuming to be a rope around you is actually an imaginary one and not a real one.
All the women in the team so that they go and do beyond what they are capable of doing. With a team of more than 75% women, let's invite Vineet Saraiwala over to the stage. CEO of Atypical Advantage, India's largest livelihood platform for persons with disabilities.
I'll be as quick as possible, right? Like this last week dinner, we are all hungry probably. No, in fact, I was surprised with Puneet's talk because he mentioned Sarai, and I have heard this word after a long time. My surname is Saraiwala, probably my aunt. So I would be, that old man's son or probably the wise old man probably. I have still not figured out, so I think Britishers named the surnames after professions, right? Tyrewala, X, Y, Z. So probably we owned a Sarai at some point. I still don't know that. But yeah, thank you for reminding me of the word. And thank you, Madhura, for inviting me here. Actually, I was like, oh, such accomplished allies, as such. And a few phone calls with Madhura and, Atypical Advantage and Aspire for her collaborated. And that was amazing. In fact, when we did some of these courses, a lot of men also joined those courses. So we asked Madhura that, are they allowed? Please allow them. And thank God, she allowed some of them to take some of these courses, because initially we thought that, that might not happen. So thank you to her, obviously. So I just have a couple of thoughts to speak about, especially it's about, proving to the world. A lot of times what happens, it's very easy to get into that trap. For example, women are good in finance, women can be good board members, hiring women make business sense. Even for people with disabilities, that's a very easy trap, right? And I have fallen in that trap, right? I've studied from a very good B school, one of the highest ever cons percentile without a pen and paper as such. And then again, climbing the corporate ladder. I've cycled 5,000 kilometers, ran 7.5 marathons, and it was always about proving about my disability. Like, hey, this guy is blind, but he can cycle. And it was always, how fast I could cycle, because I always wanted to prove versus the non-disabled world that I am better. Same with running, same with getting grades, and same way in terms of monetary metrics and climbing up the corporate ladder. And I used to do a lot of things which probably, the world thought it's not possible, just to prove to the world. So when I was trekking Harishchandragarh, I think some of you might have heard about it. It's near Mumbai. It's a moderately difficult trek, and I could have, fallen down at some point. So I was climbing a 90-degree rock climb, and people were guiding me from above. I was just crawling on 2 hands and 2 legs, trying to make up to the summit as such. And there I realized that there's a very thin line between adventure and foolishness and proving this to the world. Honestly, all of us here would fall under that trap. Remember that as women or anybody, any marginalized cohort, or we don't need to prove anything to anybody, especially to this male-dominated world. As such, we are as good, very comfortable in our own skin. So we really don't need to prove anything, be it in corporate. We don't need to prove that we are good housewives. We don't need to prove that we can climb the corporate ladder. We don't need to prove that we are the best, because who are we answering this to, right? And that was the trap where I was in. Again, completely quit my corporate career, and I actually, like, now whenever we interview people, like, because our team has more than 75% women, we look at the reverse diversity. I'm not kidding. So that's funny. As such, so probably, after that, I again quit my corporate job because I realized that I really don't need to prove anything to anybody, and just thought that why not do something which is more meaningful, and again, without even getting into the trap of numbers in general. So always remember this, that, it's not about proving anything. We are already good at it. The other thing which I really wanted to emphasize here, and congratulations to everyone, and I'm very sure everyone will join powerful boards. When you join these boards, remember about women with disabilities. Why? Because they are doubly marginalized. Especially with education, right? Like, imagine a girl child with blindness. Their parents won't allow them to pursue studies because of, it could be safety risks, it could be physical infrastructure barriers. And men with disability, in fact, the impact which we have made, 3/4 of them are men actually, and only less than 1/4 of them in terms of getting livelihood are women. And the previous speaker talked about talent and capabilities, but always remember that it is access which is equally important than talent and capabilities, because without that access, the person will not come to reach at that equal talent as such. And especially for a girl child with disability, this is quite bad in our country. A lot of them face a lot of safety challenges and educational inequality from their childhood. Like, being a man, like, for example, if I would have been a woman, I'm very sure my parents would not have even got to some level of education, and probably stopped me to pursue higher education after standard 12. And it happens, and it more so happens for a girl with disability. So whenever you are in these board positions, try to take on these difficult targets there and get that access up, and obviously we can then talk about talents and capabilities. So that's the thought which I really want to leave everyone with. So thank you again for listening and having me here.
As we celebrate this momentous occasion, let's not forget the words, each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. Each one of you sitting here today represents the embodiment of strength, resilience, and courage. Your aspiration to be on boards is not just a personal achievement, but a testament to the collective power of women supporting women. However, our journey doesn't end here. We must continue to strive for progress, to shatter everything that comes our way, and to create opportunities for those who come after us. Congratulations to each one of you once again. And for the closing remarks, I would call upon Madhura and Brenda.
Anything you want. Anything you want, Madhura.
You can start and I can close if you like, or we can do it together. No. Well, actually, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for being here with us at this very, very special moment. Thank you to all the members of the cohort. You reposed your faith in us, and you went with us on this journey. And thank you for traveling from all across the country and from the world to be here in this moment. Thank you very much. Thank you to the NGOs, which very graciously made us part of their journeys. Thank you to the two founders who I know are sitting here among us. Thank you so much. Thank you to Aarti, who orchestrated all the NGO journeys. I must tell her that she was really, really missed in this room. Thank you very much to Brenda, Mike, Betsy, Rob, Amrita, the entire team at the US Consulate, which has truly become like family to us. Thank you to the allies for taking your time out to be here today. You guys were amazing.
Yeah.
And thank you to my outstanding Aspire for Her team. I think every time we just set the bar higher. The first WOB was an experiment for us and with a lot of learning. And I think the second one, we learned a lot more, we got better. I don't want to stand between you and dinner, so I'm just going to leave you with something that I picked up on Instagram. And because I must tell you that I'm terrible at Instagram, but I keep trying to learn. And this was something that I saw, and I'd love for you guys to repeat it with me. This was I think they call it a meme. I'm trying. Okay. So it goes like this. How hard can it be? Boys do it. How hard can it be? Boys do it. Thank you.
You said my friend. Lots of things have been said, and I just want to add, these events, working with the Women on Boards program, the opening and the closings, these are some of my favorite events that we do. And it's not just because there's really great music and dancing, although that's part of my favorite. It's the genuineness in the room. It's the absolute compassion and the absolute interest in lifting one another up. And I see a lot of events, and I just have to say these remain special because it's a unified group, and just hold on to that feeling of joy and that feeling of lifting, and I'm excited to see what more you can do. So thank you all very much.